Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Bernie here, along with Pete. And today we got on the Gimmick Cast episode number 10, Peter. Can you believe
I
that?
can't believe we made double digits.
Double digits, guys, and only more to come. So let's just go over the topics right quick. So, of course, we got some basketball stuff, as we always do with the... We're going to have a little bit of a rage rant from our boy Pete over here about Lonzo Ball. We got another Kyrie rage, kind of. Just a little discussion that we heard from the herd. LeBron at point guard is another topic we're going to discuss. And also, we're going to discuss a little bit more wrestling here on the show with IGN's top 50 wrestlers in the WWE, the Nia Jax situation. Is The Miz a misogynist pig?
No.
And then we're also going to talk about XXXTentacion's record deal, which we reported last week, is now off. Let's find out here on the Gimmick Cast. All right, let's start with the first topic, and that is what you're going to be discussing, which is your inner rage.
The rage is building. It has built. It's been built.
He might be a Super Saiyan by the end of this episode.
I don't know if I'm going to get that angry. I was very angry earlier because of the fanatics at ESPN.
Right.
Mainly my favorite fanatic, not really, Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen Naismith.
Who is literally the greatest exaggerationist. That's not a word. Whatever. What's the word I was using earlier? I was using a word that actually was a real word earlier. But he's a great exaggerator, right?
Okay, yeah.
And he has gone within a week from saying that Lonzo Ball was a bust, correct? Which, This whole rage is around Lonzo Ball. It's not around Stephen A. Smith. But he was the deciding factor in my rage. Because he does like to sensationalize. There's the word I was using. So, you remember a week ago, right? We had Lonzo Ball's first game in the NBA. It wasn't super good, but it was his rookie debut. Mm-hmm. He's a kid. He's 19 years old. Right. Of course he's not going to be LeBron James. There's only one of him. So, he came out and had a very mediocre game, and Stephen A. Smith was on the television the next day saying, Lonzo Ball is a bust.
Right.
Which, regardless if he was in the second round, if he was an undrafted free agent rookie, to say that somebody is a bust after one game is about the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He's not the only one saying it. There's tons of people saying that Lonzo Ball is a bust, which is pretty ridiculous because he scored 29 points in a game and he's almost had 2 triple-doubles in 4 games.
Right.
So he's playing pretty good. He's just not as good as Ben Simmons. So to say he's not good is pretty ridiculous. But Stephen A. Smith, my good friend and colleague over at ESPN.
Your colleague?
No, he's my peer on sports journalism. Just kidding. So he said a week ago after Lonzo's first game that he was a bust, right? Then we had the whole John Wall, Marcin Gortat calling out Lonzo Ball, which is pretty silly too, right? Yeah. They're saying, oh, we're going to torture you. No mercy for this kid.
Yeah, but that was from his dad, though. But we'll get into it.
It was towards LeVar, but they're saying it towards Lonzo, right? Which is foolish, because Lonzo isn't his dad. And to say that you're going to go after this kid who's on a not very good team like that is a pretty silly thing to do. Mm-hmm. They're not very good. Focus on the Cavaliers. Focus on Boston. Focus on your actual competition, not the Lakers, who aren't super good as it is.
Right.
But instead, they come out, they're like, we're going to torture you. They all look pretty garbage. The Wizards, that is. They didn't play very good. Yeah. Considering they were playing the Lakers, they did not play good.
They definitely played down to the competition, which, if you know anything about sports, your coach always tells you never to play down to the level.
Well, guess what? They did. They didn't torture Lonzo Ball. He actually played pretty good.
I wouldn't say pretty good. He played, in terms of he played okay. It wasn't anything spectacular.
He played pretty good for his 5th game in the NBA. He almost had a triple-double, really. I mean, mind you, a very low stat line of a triple-double, but it's low, right? His plus-minus was good, which is not a bad indicator as far as the quality of your play. Okay. He wasn't super good. He's not even the best player on his team, in my opinion. Ingram is better than he is.
Okay.
So for these guys to say a week of drama saying they're going to destroy Lonzo Ball, and then they didn't perform, they lost in overtime to a bunch of kids on a not very good team. And then you have Stephen A. Smith this morning comes on his show, and he's saying, John Wall, you need to shut up. That's literally the name of the video on ESPN's YouTube channel. Stephen A. Smith says John Wall needs to shut up, which I think is really silly because a couple days ago he was saying that John Wall was going to eat Lonzo Ball alive on the court, which he didn't do. And now he's like kind of defending Lonzo Ball, which if you're going to make a sensationalist opinion like, oh, he's going to get absolutely destroyed by John Wall, which isn't that crazy, but to say he's a bust, at least stick with it.
Right.
More than 6 days. I can't stand that. The gap of time you give these people to make an impact on their team. He played 1 year at UCLA, and now he's in his 5th game in the NBA. And Stephen A. Smith, amongst a myriad of other sports news reporters, are saying he's a bust. Can you defend that at all?
No, and I said it in the charge on the episode where I was talking about Eric Bledsoe. Mm-hmm. If you guys didn't know, check it out. Cheap plug.
Check out the actual NBA show.
cheap plug. But like I said in the show, I think it's very crazy to kind of criticize Lonzo Ball in the first couple games because of the way that the NBA is. I mean, LeBron didn't play very well his first season either. Like I'm not saying that it's like you should compare the two, but it's one of those things where you just got to give some of those guys time because the thing is people want to compare Lonzo to Magic Johnson, LeBron James, like all those kind of players when he's clearly more like a Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's more like a Jason Kidd. So his impact on the team won't be with scoring. It'll be more with assists. And since Lonzo Ball is a really tall point guard, he's 6'6", 6'7", with or without shoes, you decide. He rebounds the ball pretty well for his height. And I mean, he should because he's 6'7", and I'm sure he's probably been one of the tallest dudes on this team until the Lakers team. But I just think, like I said, it was a little bit too crazy to criticize him. Yeah, he had. Although the thing I will say though is that I think that Suns game is an outlier because the Suns are really bad.
Yeah, they weren't even defending him.
Yeah,
but then again, he's not going to be a 28-point average point guard ever in his career. It's not happening.
No, he'll be very good in the assists. He'll obviously get maybe 15 to 16 points a game, I think, but along with like 12 or 13 assists.
I agree.
Which is, I think, more realistic for Alonzo Ball projection than him averaging like the 28 and like 2 and 12.
Well, and like you said too, he's a very good rebounder. So there's a good chance he is not that far off of a triple-double average. It's not going to be hard for him to score 10 points, but he's not going to be scoring 25 a game. He's definitely going to average over 10 assists a game, though, because he's an incredible passer.
Nah. He does need to work on his shooting a little bit, I will say.
I agree.
He's at 31% right now from the field. Not very good. 22 from the three-point land. Yeah. Definitely not good. He'll get better. It just takes time, and he doesn't. When I see him take the shots, though, I feel like he's sometimes a little timid in some of the jumpers that he wants to take. I don't know if it's because he thinks that he can get a better shot by passing it to someone else, but I mean, like we said, it's only like the first 4 or 5 games. We still got less than 82 games, but it's an 82 game season, so you shouldn't base your opinion on Lonzo Ball until maybe the first half of the season.
Yeah, I even think saying he's a bust at the All-Star break is a little crazy, let alone in 5 games. It's not fair to give an assumption or an analysis of one of these rookies' careers before their rookie season is even done. There's been plenty of rookies who don't look incredible their first year. Steph Curry wasn't that great in his first year.
And it's also the opposite way, too, with Tyreek Evans, looked phenomenal in this first season.
Incredible his first year. Now what is he doing? He's like the 7th man off the bench or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay, but, it's not like he's doing anything special.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we just got to slow down. We got to pump the brakes a little bit. And we also got to realize what type of player he is compared to what everyone wants him to be. And I think that's kind of what I'm seeing from fans and also analysts as well.
Yeah.
They're expecting him to be this Magic Johnson type of character in terms of the way he assists, the way he scores, just because of his height. But they need to realize is that Lonzo Ball plays a game more like Jason Kidd, in my opinion, than he does Magic or LeBron or anything like that.
Plus, and I'm going to give it back to the Lakers, too. I'm not a Lakers fan. I actually really dislike the Lakers. But what I will say is I'm becoming a Lonzo Ball fan because of the hate he gets, which doesn't usually happen. I'm not like an underdog supporter like Tim Tebow, right? I honestly dislike Tim Tebow. So really, it's not like I'm rooting for the underdog. It's just I think the amount of hate that this kid is getting is so ridiculous for anybody after 5 games of an NBA season. But he is not going to be the scoring leader for this team ever, like we said. But the Lakers have players that they can expect that from. So don't expect it from Lonzo. Don't put that pressure on him. You have Ingram. You have Kuzma, who looks really good too.
Yeah.
You have plenty of dudes who are going to be able to score. And honestly, you're probably still going to get a lottery pick this year too. Don't get ahead of yourselves, but it goes both ways. People who hate Lonzo Ball and then people who love him are just so crazy about it both ways. Like, this kid is the greatest or he's the worst.
Right.
He's pretty good for a rookie. He's not the greatest or the worst yet. He could be the worst.
And I think the reason why I like him and the reason why I kind of support him and I hope he does well this season is because he's a very humble guy if you compared him to his dad.
Yeah.
Who's very braggadocious. I wouldn't say braggadocious. He's very much like a dad.
He's pretty braggadocious, too.
He is braggadocious, and he does talk out of his ass sometimes.
He's very dad-like, though.
But he is a dad, and I truly support when a dad supports his kid. But, he does need to tone it back a bit and let Lonzo handle his business. Like I said in the Charge video, I think let Lonzo's ball. Let Lonzo's ball,
I like that, though.
Let Lonzo's ball do the talking. Don't worry about LeVar Ball, don't worry about anything. Maybe just tell your dad, hey, look, I got this. Let me handle my stuff. You worry about LiAngelo and LaMelo because they're the ones that are going to need the support from you.
Even then, I'll say this. I don't really like LeVar Ball either. I don't really care for him, obviously. But he's doing a great job of marketing his son as far as longevity in the financial realm is concerned.
Yeah.
His son is going to make more money than any of the rookies probably combined this year. Ben Simmons is not going to get the deals that Lonzo Ball is just because of who Lonzo Ball's family is and who his dad is. So he's doing a good job of marketing his son, and people are watching Lakers games. They're not even a good team, and everybody's tuning in for the Wizards versus the Lakers.
Exactly. So
it's a double-edged sword for all fronts on this whole Lonzo Ball debacle.
Yeah, but hopefully, we just kind of cleared the air with that. I'm hoping that people understand what Lonzo Ball's game is.
Yeah.
And how they need to approach seeing him in a way that it's not, you shouldn't expect this amazing scorer because he's shown you in college and also in high school if you watched his mixtapes and all this other stuff is that his game is predicated around getting other people involved first, then himself, which is what I like to see in basketball players.
I love it. I love the way he plays. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think he's very Jason Kidd-like in the way he plays. And if you expect that from him, you will be very pleasantly surprised with how he performs.
Ready to move on?
Let's move on. I'm past the rage. I honestly was much angrier earlier. I've cooled down quite a bit about it. So we're going to move on to something else.
All right. Next topic is going to be the Kyrie Irving talk and comparing him to Scottie Pippen. So on the herd, Colin Cowherd compared the way that Kyrie is a Scottie Pippen.
Okay.
That year that Scottie Pippen was without Michael Jordan, that 94 season.
Yeah.
Compared to Kyrie Irving now, who's without LeBron.
Okay.
And so here's my case as to why that's kind of not the case at all.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go look at Scottie Pippen's stats here for the 1994 season, let me pull it up right here. So in 94, he averaged 22 points, I believe. Yeah, so he averaged 22 points. Sorry, guys. I'm This is bad stuff right here. But see, he averaged 52% from the free throw, or not free throw, but from the 2-point percentage, 21 points a game, almost 3 steals a game.
That's pretty good. And
I think people are undervaluing Scottie Pippen at times. And I think it's just because of the Michael Jordan effect.
Oh, of course.
And, of course, Scottie Pippen lost in the game against the Knicks. So instead of the Bulls going in to the NBA Finals that year against the Rockets, it was the Bulls. Or, sorry, the Knicks that year.
Okay, so let me clarify a couple things about this Colin Cowherd comment. Was he referring to... What exactly was he comparing them in? Like... their performance, their ability to carry a team?
I think ability to carry a team.
See, all right, so I guess we're going to have a disagreement because I would personally agree. I don't think Scottie Pippen could carry a team to a championship.
I think he could have. I mean, let's just...
Not in that era, and I don't think Kyrie can do it now.
I don't know. Maybe if we compare... The thing is, I feel like Scottie Pippen is a better player... Mm-hmm. Without Michael Jordan. I think the reason why he doesn't get looked at as much is because Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan. So, of course, he was going to get the shots. He was going to get the everything.
Just better in general.
He was a better player. I'm not doubting that. But I believe that Scottie Pippen could have carried a team to an NBA Finals if you give him the right pieces. And, I mean, they did have the right pieces in 94. Don't get me wrong. When we watched the tapes and I actually looked at all the players on the team. I think he could have carried the championship. I mean, they lost the series. I mean, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, which is good.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't get there, but I think, I don't know. I feel like it's different with Kyrie. I think Kyrie, the problem is Kyrie. This is going to be Kyrie's first season where it's a lot harder to get his buckets compared to previous years before with LeBron.
Yeah.
So he's not going to get as many open looks from the 3-point land. He's not going to get as many lanes to the basket because the defense is going to be focused around him more than it is anybody else.
I agree to some extent, but I genuinely think like there's a certain kind of player, like if you put them in the star role of the team, I just don't think they're capable of winning it on their own.
Okay.
I mean, like, and this is going to be a little controversial, and I think you're probably going to disagree with me very heavily. I don't think James Harden could do it on his own. I think, like, this year he has a good shot because he has Chris Paul to divvy up the responsibility of being the star of the team.
Yeah, but even then, like, the only reason why I disagree there is because when you watch I know it's only the first couple of games, but when you watch the offense and who it's centered around, especially with the Rockets, it's centered around James Harden and his ISO game.
Oh, for sure.
So, to me, Chris Paul doesn't really make that much of a difference in terms of the offensive ability. Of course, he's going to make a difference in the defensive ability because he's like one of the league leading people that steal the ball in the league.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's one of those things where Kyrie but I think James Harden could potentially do. I think just like with every player, you need like at least one more player.
You need another star on a team, and that was going to be my next point. Like, I think a lot of these dudes, like, even LeBron couldn't do it on his own.
Right.
He could never do it on his own. Michael Jordan couldn't do it on his own either. He had Scottie Pippen the whole time. So, when it really boils down to it, I guess I'm picking different, like, from different baskets, so to say. Like, I was trying to compare Kyrie to Scottie like the way that Colin Cowherd did, but I don't think that's necessarily a fair comparison. I think it's really any player who's the sole star of their team.
Right.
I don't know if it's possible, really. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's obviously possible, but it's much harder than the average. Like, look at Westbrook last year. He put up incredible numbers. They weren't going to win the championship, you know?
Obviously, yeah.
And he's not going to put up as good of numbers this year, but they have a much better chance of winning the championship just because he's got other pieces around him. And Kyrie Irving is going to suffer from that this year for the mere fact that he lost his co-star in Gordon Hayward.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I would honestly, I don't think it's that far off of a comparison if you compare the 94 season for the Bulls for the Celtics this year, right? I mean, obviously, those Bulls were much more established. But Pippen lost Jordan. Kyrie has lost Gordon Hayward. So really, when it comes to being a team of 2 stars and then losing your co-star, it's pretty similar.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just think Scottie Pippen in that era, I think he was good enough to get to a championship. Mm-hmm. And obviously, he's a couple. I think they lost 3-1 to the Knicks or something like that. I believe it was something like that. Anyway, it was. I think he was good enough at the time to do it. His points per game went up as soon as Michael Jordan was out of there. Steals were up. I think his free throw was up as well in one of the seasons. I just think he was a better player without Michael, because Michael, of course, was going to take all the shots.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, Pippen is definitely underrated as far as quality of basketball player all time is concerned. Yeah. He's up there. He's in the upper echelon of player.
Maybe I'm just annoyed because you got people like Skip Bayless who just kind of a Michael Jordan lover.
Yeah, I can't stand it.
Because he doesn't understand the concept of team basketball, and I feel like he looks at it from like a fan perspective, and like a casual fan perspective. I wouldn't say like a NBA expert or diehard.
Yeah, no, I agree, because he does his Michael Jordan rants all the time, and he always leaves Scottie Pippen out. Michael Jordan couldn't have done all those things he did without Scottie Pippen. Really, he couldn't have. It wasn't possible.
It was just funny to think that like Skip Bayless said that. It's funny that he knacks LeBron for saying that he can't win on his own when Michael Jordan couldn't win on his own either until he got Scottie there, because he couldn't beat the bad boy Pistons. I don't want this to turn into like a
history lesson. No,
but
I 100% agree with you on this. I think that like people who just sum it up as like, oh, it was Jordan winning those titles. I think the closest thing to a superstar ever doing it on their own was Kobe in the late 2000s. When he won a couple championships, and even then he still had a really good team around him.
With Paul Gasol and all them?
Yeah.
That year?
But he was that's the closest to like one superstar on a team winning a championship.
Yeah.
But even then, he had Powell on the team, and he was crazy good at the time.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where people complain or just say, oh, because you got help, that's the reason why your team won or something like that. I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense. It's a team sport. So, like, for people to just say, like, oh, it's a superstars league, like, I don't know. Get a grip. Ready? Are we ready to move on to the next little basketball topic?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of segued into the person that Skip Bayless hates a lot, and that is LeBron James.
In my top 3 favorite players of all time.
He is a great player.
LeBron James. I actually would put him as the number 1 best player of all time, but that's for another day. That's probably going to get some people heated on the internet.
You might get some dislikes there.
Whatever. Suck it. So the big controversy or conversation point, I guess, rather, at the moment is LeBron at the point guard as like the Cavaliers' starting point guard from now on.
Yeah, until...
Our point, we had a little brief discussion about this topic when we were going through the podcast. We both kind of said, when has he not been the point guard? Because really, he kind of always is.
Yeah.
He's just not listed as the starting point guard. Think about when he was on the Heat with Mario Chalmers. Were they really considering Mario Chalmers the main dude with the ball?
And even then, when like the 2007 Cavaliers with Boobie Gibson.
Especially with Boobie Gibson. I mean, he was like...
Boobie Gibson and Delonte West.
Good Lord. Wasn't there Delonte West? Isn't he the one that slept with LeBron's mother?
That's rumors. I don't know if it's true.
I always love that rumor. I think that's funny. Excuse my sip. Yeah, I think it's kind of a silly conversation, really.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those ESPN-generated conversations just to have a conversation about LeBron.
Yeah, I think in general, people just take too much of, like, what their listed starting position is as, oh, they're a point guard. Oh, that's a power forward or a center.
Yeah.
So these dudes nowadays are playing every position on the court.
Yeah, and that's what Jalen Rose said on his podcast, I believe years ago. I don't remember which one. If you guys know, please put it down in the comments section so everyone can know. But it's one of those things where he says basically it's now a positionless basketball era now, where you have people playing the point, you have people playing the center. I mean, LeBron can play all 5.
He literally could play every position on the court. And honestly, you have another dude on the team who could do that too. Kevin Love is a great passer too. He could probably play the point guard too. He's their starting center. So for people to get so enraged or upset at the fact that LeBron is like a point guard or whether he should be their starting point guard. Get a grip. You wouldn't take him over Derrick Rose at this point in their careers at point guard? Give me a break.
But even then, it's just one of those discussions that doesn't really need to be had because it's one of those, if you follow the NBA, if you follow basketball itself, you understand what type of role LeBron plays, what type of role these type of like hybrid players play as well. Because you have a lot of players that can also play the small forward, the power forward, and the center. Like they're interchangeable parts.
It doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter because they all have it's all about your role on the team. It's not about your position. I think positions were created just so people have an easier understanding of the game.
Yeah.
And what each position does. But now since we're in a new era where basketball is more popular than ever, people are going to suddenly realize that, oh, these guys they're positionalists and they have their own roles to fill on the team.
I think it also has to do quite a bit with the quality of athlete. You know, like I don't think people give that enough thought and consideration because there's still some athletes or people in the NBA who definitely can't play the point guard but are very good at the center. Like you're not going to put DeMarcus Cousins at the point guard.
No.
Like he's incredible as a center, but he can't do that. So really what it boils down to is like these athletes are capable of doing all the things that like LeBron is the prime example. He can do all the things a center can. He can do all the things a point guard can. So what's the argument really? It doesn't. It's completely pointless. You're never going to come to a conclusion where everybody's happy. Just think of LeBron as LeBron James. He's not the point guard. He's not the small forward.
He's everything.
It doesn't matter.
GM, coach.
Like honestly, you could have it. Like look at the Warriors. That's a small team. You know, none of those dudes is the typical center, but they still win all the time, and they're the best team in the league. Size and positioning, it doesn't matter. As long as you know what you're doing out on the court. All right, move on to the next topic. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about it.
IGN.
Another IGN video.
Our favorite source of news. So this one isn't necessarily news, and we're not going to stay on it. We're going to kind of diverge off to our own little topic here. But IGN just put out another top 50 wrestlers of all time list, which apparently I was looking at it, and it's like a face-off type polling system.
Yeah.
They didn't just write it. They take all they have the like battle system, right? Which is a completely flawed way to do it.
Right.
I don't agree with it. Because then you don't get every matchup, so you don't know, like, I don't know. It's kind of dumb. So let's just go through. I'll just read their top 10, and then we'll air some grievances with the rest of the list, just in case there is some grievances, because I have a couple. 1 second, bear with me. So number 10 on the list is Edge.
Edge?
Randy Savage, number 9.
The Macho Man.
Roddy Piper. Rowdy Piper. I don't know what that voice is. He's not whatever that was. Hulk Hogan. Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah, brother.
Shawn Michaels is going to do an impression of every other person. Bret Hart. Do your Bret Hart impression.
I can't act.
Wow, I don't know what that was. The Rock, number 3. Undertaker, 2. Stone Cold Steve Austin, number 1.
Give me a hell yeah,
brother.
Doesn't say brother.
Yeah, he could. Why not? He could say brother in his voice. So I'm gonna get out of the top 10 because the top 10, those guys all belong in the top 10.
You think
in different lists. I love Edge. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
Well, we'll talk about it, but honestly, I don't think Edge is top 10. I think he's top 20, but he's not top 10.
Yeah, if it's a top 10 of my favorite wrestlers, he's making it in. Top 50 greatest wrestlers of all time, top 10 greatest wrestlers of all time, he's not in it. So there's your number 1 issue with the list, right? An impromptu. Right. Then my other big issue with this list, and this is strange because I'm not even necessarily a big fan of this gentleman, John Cena, at number 18 on the list. What do you think about the placement?
I think that's a little bit low, especially for when the time that he wrestled in, was the Ruthless Aggression era. He kind of was the company man.
I mean, he's been the company man.
He still is the company man to an extent because I think he's the number 1 merchandise seller. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of weird to see him at 18, especially in a fan-made list in a battle situation because if fans are smart and they think about it logically, John Cena isn't going to lose.
The thing about it too, right, is I think that the way they've made this list is very biased. Obviously, it's fans voting for it. And I think a lot of the WWE fans who would be in this kind of arena looking at this list and participating in the vote aren't capable of taking a step back and seeing what John Cena has done. He's not going to be in any of a hardcore wrestler's top 10 favorite wrestler of all time.
Right.
But as far as the greatest wrestlers of all time, he's going to be the most prolific WWE champion of all time.
Right.
Which is no small feat. He's going to be that. So for you to put this guy at number 18, in my opinion, is pretty crazy. Because there's a lot of people, in my opinion, he's top 5.
Top 5, top 5?
He's top 5. Yeah, I would put him, and this isn't, like I said, not my favorite list, because trust me, he's not in my top 5. As far as prolificness is concerned, he's ahead of Stone Cold.
Wow.
The only dude that should be ahead of him is Hulk Hogan.
Right.
As far as the greatest wrestler of all time from a non-biased opinion is concerned, it's Hulk Hogan and John Cena.
I mean, I would agree, but to me, Stone Cold and what he did in that late 90s era really revitalized the WWE itself. As we know that the WWE wasn't at a good state during the time where before when WCW came in, they did the whole NWO angle. Of course, more people were watching WCW. But when you got characters like Stone Cold, The Rock, HBK, well, I don't know about HBK because he's a little bit injured. But, like Triple H, when those guys came in, they revitalized WWE and Raw. And they brought in hot angles, and everything was really good for the company at that time. And it brought them to probably the highest point in terms of popularity and pop culture reference than ever. Yeah.
And I'll say this, too. Stone Cold is definitely in my top 3. Right. Favorite and just greatest wrestlers. But I just think you got to take John Cena at just what he's done for the company. And at certain times, he's really carried the company on his back.
And I appreciate that, obviously. Yeah. But I still think the way that Stone Cold was and the way that he kind of made popularized wrestling paved the way for people like John Cena to come in with this thugonomics thing. Yeah. And then transition into probably one of the current WWE's generation superstars of all time.
Let's move on to gripe number 3 of the list, and that being the inclusion of some WWE wrestlers. This is a WWE exclusive list, but I think some of these people have been put on this list for the fact that they were very prolific in their time before the WWE.
Okay.
Case 1 is AJ Styles. Of course, most people are putting him in maybe their top 5 favorite wrestler of all time list. Like new age wrestling fans, right? But as far as the greatest WWE wrestlers of all time, he can't be in the top 50. Maybe in the lower, like towards 50. I'm just saying based on how long he's been in the WWE and the things he's accomplished as a WWE champion, he shouldn't be that high. He's at number 23. I don't think I said that.
I don't know. To me, AJ Styles is probably perfect where he is right now because I think he's done a lot more and he's been pushed heavily compared to guys that are not, who weren't WWE created guys. Yeah. Because, you see the other guys right now, they're not getting pushed as hard because they don't grab the brass ring like Vince McMahon says. But I think with AJ Styles, it's a little bit different in my opinion. I think what he's done so far has just put him well enough that he should be included in the WWE list. Maybe 23 is too high, but I think he should be included in the list based on the fact that he is a company man. And we noticed that this weekend with the TLC pay-per-view stuff. He was there doing a South American tour. He was there at TLC. He was there on Raw, and he also wrestled on Tuesday.
Yeah, he does his part. I'm just saying, give him a couple more years in the WWE, and who knows, he could end up being in the top 5. Really. Then we got Daniel Bryan right after him at 24, and then Randy Orton at 25. Those are 2 dudes who I think have had a much more... This is just continuing on with my AJ Styles point. I feel like they have accomplished much more in the WWE. And as far as the longevity of the WWE is concerned, they've done more for the company than some of the other people ahead of him. Regardless, I want to just bring up a couple more people on the list, and then we're going to go into a little special segment. Where is it? Shinsuke Nakamura, I think, is pretty interesting. Even more so than AJ Styles, his inclusion on the list is it should be pretty contested, right? Because his NXT run is pretty great.
His NXT run was pretty
What
great.
he's done on the main roster, though, has been pretty average, really.
Probably below average.
Not only necessarily just his work in general, but, I mean, they've not necessarily booked him very well.
They haven't booked him.
But to put him at number 41 after his pretty bad run so far on the main roster, I think it's pretty crazy.
And I think the picture justifies it perfectly why he's on this list, and it's NXT. Because his NXT work was probably the best work that they've done for him. And he, like, when he first came in and you saw his entrance and everything, especially at takeovers, it was something to see, and it was like a spectacular special event that should have been a lot done better from the main roster perspective.
Yeah, they should have just kept it up, really.
But, you know, whether you like it or not, I think Shinsuke Nakamura included on this list is actually really good because he was a spectacle and he was treated almost like a Brock Lesnar-like character in NXT, and I wish that they would do that with him in the main roster. But I think he's right where he is. I think he's good where he is because because let's say he was on the same run as he from NXT to the main roster, I'd put him higher on the list.
Yeah, I just feel like it's too soon to put him on the list. But I would agree with you. If they had booked him better, his inclusion on the list I would probably agree with it.
Right.
But really, and I said, I think some of these people are just on the list for the mere fact of their name before the WWE.
Right.
Obviously. And then the last thing I want to point it out, or actually second to last thing, they put Asuka on the list, which I think is even crazier than Shinsuke because she's had one match on the main roster. It's pretty silly, but I know you're going to disagree because of her NXT run. But NXT and the main roster they're different. They're different. And your prolificness is based on what you've done in the main roster. And for now.
But I think that's the kind of backwards way of thinking about it in terms of you really should be focusing on the whole entirety because NXT is still part of the WWE universe. Whether they want to admit it or not, NXT is part of the WWE. Yeah. And anything that happens in NXT should also be considered with everything else as well. Although, you have to pay for the network to watch NXT compared to free for Raw and SmackDown. I still think that NXT is being mistreated in terms of by the way that they don't talk about it on the main roster. They kind of just think of it as an afterthought. And I said in many reviews, and I've said many times on the Gimmick Cast, I just hated, and the one specific example is Asuka, is that they never mentioned her undefeated streak. Yeah. Or the way that's how she was dominant in NXT. They just said, just be scared of her. Instead of telling me why I should be scared, showing me NXT replays of what this woman could do, they just didn't do anything for it. And that's what gets me upset with that and why I think most of these guys should really stay in NXT. Like most of these guys I wish would stay in NXT or be booked the same, or Triple H needs to literally give Vince McMahon a how to book Asuka, how to book Shinsuke Nakamura, how to book Finn Balor, because literally those guys, Vince McMahon, the creative writing staff, Kevin Dunn with his buck-ass teeth, they need to realize how to book guys properly. And I've said it time and time again, if they don't do it the right way, you're going to lose a lot more people watching the product. Because even just talking about it just on the Wrestling News and Rumors, that the way that Finn Balor lost, not okay. Not okay at all. And a lot of people, when I heard from Dave Meltzer, who's a WWE news source, whether, take it with a grain of salt, a lot of people in the backstage were baffled at the way that the match happened and the way that Finn Balor just lost clean to Kane.
I mean, it's crazy. What I will say, right, and I'll give you devil's advocate perspective.
Devil's advocate.
As long as NXT is promoted as a developmental product, people outside of the WWE in the mainstream and the people who don't necessarily care as much as the product inside of the WWE it'll always be second fiddle to the main roster. It's never going to change as long as it's a developmental place. So if you wanted those things to happen that you just said, they would have to separate it, not entirely, but it couldn't be a developmental place. Maybe a transitionary place would be a better way to put it. Like, you take these indie stars and they transition into a WWE lifestyle, which, you know, people would think of it less as, oh, they're actually learning how to wrestle, which we know that Finn Balor wasn't learning how to wrestle at NXT, but the outside sources are going to think of it like that, right?
And that's what's kind of frustrating to me, because NXT is not a developmental place at all.
It's not, but it's labeled as that.
Which they shouldn't do that. I think Triple H has done enough, and NXT takeovers have done enough to show you that it's no longer a developmental system at all, because the shows that takeovers have are 1,000 times better than anything the main roster can do.
Yeah. I'm going to give you... I'm sorry to continue on this NXT debate that we're having, right? Because I love NXT, and honestly, I agree with you. I do think it's better. But I think that there is something to be said about it actually being developmental. Because you can't tell me Shinsuke Nakamura, right, would have come straight into an American style of wrestling and been the same Shinsuke Nakamura that he was in Japan. He just doesn't wrestle the same way that, you know, he couldn't cut the same kind of promo in Japan as he does here. So for him, he's a good example of somebody who needs the developmental or readjustment phase. Let's get off this NXT debate, because I guess that probably could go on for another hour, but we don't want it to. There's another last big gripe I have with this list is the fact that they left off Dusty Rhodes is not on this list at all. Yet his son Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, is on the list. Dusty Rhodes is a top 25 wrestler in the WWE of all time, let alone the fact that he didn't make it into this top 50, and he's a million times better than Goldust is. So, that's just a big gripe, I guess. I just have to complain about it.
I mean, Dusty's a great guy. He made so many good things. He made War Games. He brought in the Starrcade. I mean, this guy had a great mind for the business. He was a great person, and he helped out NXT a lot. I mean, the thing that we were just talking about.
He cut a damn good promo, too.
And he's so good. I mean, that's the thing that kind of frustrates me. I don't know why they disrespect Dusty like that, especially with his sons, like with Cody. I mean, I know this is like a different debate, different topic, but they really need to do better by Cody.
He doesn't get enough credit,
but
I agree. So, what I was saying earlier, I wanted to go into a little side topic because of this list, because I mean, the list is what it is. It's a bunch of fans voting on a list. So you can't say that IGN's stupid for making the list.
Right.
I just don't think that... I think between this and the NBA list that we had a big podcast, heated discussion about, I think it was episode 2 or 3 of the podcast, these fan poll things don't do the actual thing justice.
Right.
And it's just making a list just for the sake of making a list. So... we want to give our top 5 wrestlers of all time.
Okay, let's do it.
How about we just do one? You just go give your 5, and then I'll give my 5. Can you do that?
Yeah, let me just... you go first, but let me just think about it.
I go first. That's tough. My favorite... Let me go... John Cena. No, I'm just kidding. Kurt Angle is in there. I'll probably put Kurt Angle number 5. I love Kurt Angle. I'll put The Rock at number 4. I'll put... oh, man. That's really hard. I'll put Ric Flair at number 3.
Okay.
Number 2, I'm going to put Rowdy Roddy Piper. And then number 1, I'm going to put Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold, okay.
I love Rowdy Roddy Piper. One of my favorite characters ever in anything.
Wow. Okay, so for number 5, of course, I got to have Ric Flair. Just for the character and personality he is. Number 4, I'm going to go with The Rock as well. Very good character. Number 2, or not number 2, number 3. I might seem biased for it, but I might have to go Rey Mysterio.
Ooh, yeah, it's not that bad. I think a lot of people would put him up there.
Rey Mysterio, number 3. Number 2, Shawn Michaels. And number 1, The Undertaker.
The Undertaker. See, he probably wouldn't be in my top 10.
I think he's top 10. I think the way that he was able to be that character for so long and without, like, because, I mean, we all know it's fake. I mean, in terms of it's, I don't know.
I think I ruined that. We did the same bit in our intro to this channel video. Yeah. It's really funny. But the opposite. I was like, it's fake. And you were like,
yeah, but no, like, the way that he's able to just carry out the persona and personality for so long when kayfabe died, I think that's just amazing. And just, I still remember those WrestleMania matches with him and Shawn Michaels as being one of my favorite WWE matches of all time.
Yeah, those are incredible. The one thing I'll say about The Undertaker, I respect the fact that he got the majority of WWE fans to be, like, invested in the character. I just personally always thought it was corny. I always did. Even when I was a kid, I thought it was kind of corny. So that's probably he'd be in my top 50. All right, make you happy. If Kenny Omega ever comes to the WWE, he's instantly top 5.
he's up there. He's definitely up there.
Okada too.
Okada's probably not coming, but Kenny Omega has a chance just because he wants to wrestle AJ.
Never say never.
Okay, Goldberg. All right, guys, let's just move into the next topic after our IGN top 50 wrestler debate. We're going to talk about the Nia Jax situation. So, of course, everyone knows that she wasn't at TLC. She wasn't promoting TLC. She wasn't really promoting wrestling at that point. And the rumor is that she wanted to walk out because they wanted her to lose clean at TLC against Sasha Banks.
Okay.
And as we all know, Sasha Banks has kind of a little personal beef with Alexa Bliss, who is Nia Jax's best friend. So it's one of those things where I think Alexa Bliss told her not to lose. And she also went to The Rock for advice. This is according to Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
Telling her that she should just walk out if she's not happy with what's going on. And that's pretty much all about it. But I think now it's resolved. As of now, I believe. She's promoting Raw stuff about the invasion, about how Raw's better. But we're going to talk about the little spat that she had with her creative control, her more money issue, and then also what you think about it.
Has she ever lost a solo match?
Yeah.
Okay, she has. I honestly don't care very much about her or her character. There's been 15 other characters like her before, from what I can tell, really. So what I'll say is the most interesting to me, right, is what The Rock said to her. Mm-hmm. I wonder what the WWE major team, behind the scenes thought about him saying that.
Right.
I wonder if they were pretty upset with him for telling her to do that. Rather than just he still is part of the WWE. So he could still do the company man style of response and just say, hey, just, keep your chin up and go with the flow. It'll get better. Which is probably what they would want him to say. I don't know. What do you think? This matters much more to you than it does me. I think it's interesting, but
I just think it's a little bit kind of, in a way, just funny to me. Like, of course, a lot of people aren't happy with what their booking is right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, Cesaro isn't happy because, of course, he want to be a champion.
Yeah.
Should have been a champion by now. And, Sami Zayn is probably not happy with his character either, being a jobber. But now,
he's getting better.
But he's getting better now with his new heel gimmick. But still, these guys aren't happy with their creativity, their creative control as well. But they don't go to management or have talk about it with issues. Maybe they should. But I feel like maybe the culture of wrestling is that if you complain about it, you're going to be off much worse.
Yeah, like the whole punishment behind the scenes style stuff. Right. It definitely still happens. Probably not to the level that it used to. But I can't imagine. I would be very curious to know what the rest of the roster is thinking of Nia Jax right now. Right. Whether they're behind her or not. Because I think Sasha Banks is pretty popular. In the fandom and amongst probably WWE superstars. So for her to be so, hard-headed about the whole situation is just, nobody looks good in that situation.
Yeah, it just kind of seems that she's just complaining about, the money thing I could understand.
What was she complaining? Not getting enough money?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that I can understand a little bit, but the creative control thing is a little bit baffling to me because a lot of those women and a lot of those men on the roster aren't happy with their creative control. Sasha Banks is probably not happy with that little feud she had with Charlotte because they basically hot potatoed the title back and forth between each other. So she's probably not happy that she had to lose the title, and she hasn't had a successful. She hasn't defended her title successfully
ever
after winning it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine anybody is happy. So for her to take it so personally and literally walk away for a few days and be like, I'm not doing this, is just like kind of childish. And the money thing, I would have to see how much money she's actually making if I determine if it's enough or not. I don't want to say she's not making enough money, without knowing publicly.
Exactly.
But like, she could be making a ton of money, really. She's The Rock's cousin, so for all we know, she could be making bank.
Yeah, I'm sure The Rock probably said, "Hey, WWE should sign her. She's a great worker. She's a hard worker. She'll do everything. She'll do anything to make sure that she's one of the top."
And now she's making The Rock look bad.
Yeah, well, it's not like making The Rock look bad, but it also makes me wonder, like you said, like what the WWE is thinking about The Rock right now.
Yeah.
Because he's done this enough already. Because I think the WWE wanted to fire Paige, but since The Rock was making a movie about Paige's family and about Paige herself, they can't fire her. So they're probably really not happy with The Rock, and I wonder if Vince McMahon will probably have a little talk with him.
Maybe.
Just to say, hey, you're really fucking things up.
I mean, at this point, though, The Rock is so much bigger than the WWE.
Right.
It really doesn't matter for him. And I think that's the only reason he would say something like that. Because I think that's obviously something he really believes. Like, if you're not happy, just leave. But if he said that 15 years ago, he'd be in a much worse position. But now, he's the highest grossing Hollywood actor. Not because he used to be in the WWE, but because he's The Rock. And regardless if the WWE still likes him or not, he's going to be The Rock forever.
Right. So,
yeah, I think just as far as this is concerned, I think, I don't know, man. I think what makes her look kind of bad because she's not the only superstar being misbooked or wrongly booked, however you want to say it. So for her to take such a hardcore stand and put a match on hold, essentially, just because she doesn't agree with the way it's going to go, it's pretty childish.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of reminds me of other past wrestlers that have tried to do this before, and it doesn't work to their advantage.
Never works.
In terms of just being in the WWE correctly and being booked, but leaving the WWE and going to a different promotion is a different story. Mm-hmm. Which I think Austin Aries has done. Neville is going to do. It looks like he's been cut out of the 205 Live, the opening scenes.
Yeah, he's gone.
So, good luck to him. Good luck to Neville. And I just hope this, if this actually leads to something where she actually gets what she wants, then I think other wrestlers should follow in her footsteps and be like, hey, you're giving Nia this privilege or this opportunity to change her creative control. Why don't you change mine as well? Because
I don't think there's any chance that they change the way they're booking her based on this. And I was going to say, if she was mad about losing clean to Sasha Banks before, she's never going to do it now. I guarantee you the WWE is not going to say, hey, come back, you're going to win against Sasha Banks the next time you guys fight. It's not happening. They're too petty.
I just think they're too petty and it's too high schoolish. I just think Sasha Banks is just a better wrestler than her.
I mean, in general, it's really it's a different conversation whether or not she really should lose. It's how you take it. She's making the same amount of money that she would regardless if she wins or loses.
Right.
It should be up to her to change her fortunes, But really, I will say that WWE misbooks these people. So it's a double-edged sword. She could be fine without this whole thing, but I didn't care about her before this, and now I can tell you I definitely don't want to watch her matches.
Yeah.
So there you go. She kind of screwed herself. She lost a fan. I wasn't a fan before, so she was shit.
All right. Ready to move on?
Let's move on. The misogynist.
The misogynist pig himself.
The misogynist.
Yeah, so like he said, so The Miz was on Sports Nation today. It is currently Thursday, October 26th. So he was on the show today. He was talking about Cleveland basketball, how he's from Cleveland, with Katie Nolan, Michelle Beadle, and I can't remember the other guy's name.
TZ or JZ or
TL.
Who cares? Some dude on Sports Nation, right?
Yeah, so he's on the show with Sports Nation talking about LeBron. He proceeds to call Katie Nolan a sweetheart, and that lit the social justice warriors up to a flaming rage of fury that we've yet to see from the social justice warriors before.
The one thing I'll say about this is the perfect opportunity for The Miz to be the greatest heel in the WWE in 2017. He changes his name to the Misogynist, and he says that to everybody. Like, he calls people sweetheart or doll or stuff like that, you know?
Right.
And he just does, like, the anti-politically correct gimmick.
Okay.
That would be funny, and he would be a big heel. Honestly, it would probably go over for a lot of the WWE fans, though.
Yeah.
They probably like it.
But just like talking about this topic in general, I just think The Miz was playing a character on TV, on Sports Nation, and people don't understand. People that aren't wrestling fans or casual wrestling fans don't understand that.
Okay.
And I think that's the reason why they got so offended by it.
All right. I'll counterpoint you.
Okay.
I think he was being serious. Right?
Right.
Regardless, is sweetheart really an offensive term to anybody? Like, if you say it in a really creepy way, right?
Right.
I understand maybe being like, you're weirded out. Like, this guy I don't know is calling me a sweetheart. That's a little freaky.
Okay.
The Miz is on this show that he's on pretty frequently, as far as, like, being a special guest is concerned.
All right.
And he called this lady a sweetheart. Like, who's offended by that? If she was really offended by that, I'd be pretty upset, because that's pretty ridiculous. People get called sweetheart all the time by people they don't know. Is it really such a crazy thing, you social justice warriors? Chill your jets. Cool them off, all right? Maybe take an insult as an insult, not this guy calling somebody a sweetheart, you know? Maybe if he like, what are they going to be happy with? What would they have been happy with rather than her name? Could he have called her, hey, lady? They probably would have been offended by that too.
Yeah, there's no pleasing the social
whatever.
The social justice warriors. There's no pleasing them.
You filthy cucks.
Whoa.
I just got a little evil on the mic. I was just kidding. Honestly, this one is just exceptionally crazy to me. That people are upset at this guy for calling somebody a sweetheart. That's where I don't even want to say the words that I want to say regarding how I feel about this.
Yeah, it's just it's all I can say really is just it's 2017. That's all you could really say.
He's the misogynist now, and he's gonna call everybody sweetheart, including other men. And now we have the greatest heel of 2017. He's been born. He's already good, so he should just stick with it. If he's smart, he takes it in stride and incorporates it into his character.
Yeah, but we'll have to see about that. And that's really all we got for wrestling topics. But let's move on to... You ready to move on?
Yeah, we got a couple random little topics here.
Let's talk about the first one. So last week we reported on the Gimmickcast episode 9 is that XXXTentacion got a record deal with Capitol Records.
Yes.
So now it looks like, according to XXXTentacion, IG Story, and along with academics reporting it, that his record deal has been canceled. It's been cut off. He decided to not take the deal anymore.
So they've officially said he decided not to take it.
He said it on the IG Story. I don't think Capitol Records has said anything yet, at least to my knowledge.
Okay.
The only thing we've heard from is X himself, and he said that the deal was off.
Okay. I mean, we were both kind of confused as to why he did it in the first place last week.
Exactly.
Other than my point that it was guaranteed money that he doesn't know he could make otherwise. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a better business decision in 2017 to not be tied up to a record label, really. Mm-hmm. And he's only going to get bigger and bigger. He's only had one big mainstream hit of his own music, which is Look at Me. He can definitely have more. He's only 19 years old, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So he's going to get bigger, and imagine the record deals that would come in 2 years when he's one of the biggest rappers in the country. You know? He could be getting a $60 million deal for all we know. So he's lucking out, in my opinion. It's a good thing he's off of it. What do you think?
To me, I just think, like we said, it's just one of those things where I feel like he shouldn't have signed in the first place. He should have just kept doing his thing with Empire in terms of just making it, selling his products through them, like his music. And I think that would have been a lot better, and I think he would have made a lot more money in the long term without having to pay the record company. Although it is guaranteed money now, if you believe in yourself and you think that you're going to be a superstar, then I think you should be fine just being independent until you can kind of reach a deal with like Apple Music or something like that. Something where you could just do.
I definitely agree. As soon as he gets his whole his not political, but his personal stuff cleared up, and if he can fix his act, change his act, so to say, he's going to be in a super good position to make a ton of money, way more than $6 million.
Exactly.
It's a good shout. I wonder if he changed his mind based on all the people in the comments. Like, dude, what are you doing? You're taking so much money away from yourself by doing that.
I'm sure he listens, but I don't think he really.
Maybe he jumped at the money, and then the week went by, and he's like, I don't want that deal.
Yeah, I think that's.
I feel like that's probably what it was. Anything else on this topic? Any music stuff you want to talk about? I don't think so.
Just not really anything other than we've been listening to Brent. Was it Fiaz, right?
Fiaz. Brent Fiaz.
Great guy, great music. Loving the album.
Loving it. It's called Saunders Son. I think we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, I've been listening to the Future Young Thug. Super slimy. It's awesome. I love it. You don't like it as much as I do.
I just think it's the same kind of Future Young Thug tracks. I think...
Kind of, yeah.
I still think that Young Thug's country album, Easy Breezy Beautiful Thugger Girls... I think... I know that's not the name, but I think I like that one a lot better. I don't know why,
I don't know. He was bringing the mic closer to himself. He wanted to be...
Yeah, I just wanted to talk like this.
He wanted to be heard. Yeah. I mean, I like it personally, but it has its samey type quality. Super samey. Maybe that's what the actual title was called. I like it, though. I think No Cap is a super banger, as they say. Mm-hmm. As those young kids say. That's a super banger.
That's a banger, bro.
Let's move on to the weirdest topic of the day. Very impromptu topic.
Yeah.
The JFK Files Unleashed.
Unleashed!
Cut to me right now. Cut to me with the X-Files music and zoom in.
Zoom in.
Unleashed. Yeah, so Donald J. Trump, our president, let's not get political, came out and said that they're going to release the JFK Files.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to release his, I think, autopsy and all this other files about the JFK case.
Mm-hmm.
So, the conspiracy theorists and everyone that's been making these videos about what happened to JFK, they're going to be they're probably cremming their pants right now.
They're cremming them?
They're cremming them.
Crema.
They're cremming their pants to think of what other theories and what things will support their ideas and also come up with new ideas about what happened.
Guarantee when it comes out and they're just like, yeah, he just got shot, right?
Yeah.
All these people are going to be like, fake documents.
Yeah.
Fake news.
Fake news.
I mean, it's honestly, in today's day and age, it is hard for me to believe that they're going to release the actual files.
Right.
I honestly feel like there's probably going to be some redacted stuff, as they would say, some political jargon. But I'm excited to read it. I'm going to read it. I'm very interested in conspiracy theories. So
you read it and tell me how it is. I'll be over here.
I'll make a song out of it.
You'll make a song out of it?
I'll make a fire beat and then I'll rap over it with the JFK files.
Okay.
It'll be 17 hours long.
17 hours long. All right. Make sure you guys check it out.
Better than that 24-hour slap in the face challenge or whatever. Throwing shade at that guy, whatever your name is. Whoever that was, get out. We don't like you.
Oh, man.
We're never collabing with that guy. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else for the day?
Nope. Other than just have a great day, guys.
I don't think so. I don't think you should. I think you should have a bad day.
Afraid to got some bad news.
Get out of here. All right, guys. Before we make any more awful jokes, I should say. This has been your boy Pete.
This is Bernie.
Peace.
Peace out, guys. Oh, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the video as well.
Oh, God, that's awkward. Yeah. JFK Files Unleashed.
All right, we're done here. Peace, guys.